Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Jauregui. I am the social media coordinator for Seattle Print Arts. Thank you so much for joining us for our fifth and final chat with artists from the Contemporary Northwest Print Invitational at Davidson Galleries. I want to take a moment to honor and acknowledge the land that I'm on tonight. I'm speaking from the traditional and ancestral lands of the Lummi and the Nooksack. I honor the land, and I'm grateful to the Lummi and the Nooksack people, past and present, for their caretaking of the land. I encourage everybody to investigate whose land you are on now and in the past. For Seattle Print Arts, we're on the traditional lands of the Duwamish, and I ask you to join me in paying real rent every month to the Duwamish. And I also want to turn attention to the continued police brutality and murder of Black folks in the US. Again and again, we see bodily violence that causes trauma, pain, and ongoing horror all over the US from the police and white supremacist beliefs and policies that permeate our country and also, reside within internalized white supremacy. I want to be clear that property destruction is not the same as the loss of life, and equating the two is a clear example of the white supremacist belief that Black people and property are one and the same, and they are not. If you aren't already taking action to change the racist institutions and structures in this country, consider why not, and then get to work holding yourself and the government accountable with action. I think this is a really hard time, and I'm really grateful for all of you joining us. We have three really great artists with us tonight. Elisa Dore, Yerin, and Annegret Reichmann. And this is the fifth, as I said, of 5 talks. The Contemporary Northwest Print Invitational runs through the end of August, the 31st at Davidson Galleries in Pioneer Square. And Nikki's put the information in the chat. You can email Rebecca to make an appointment. They do ask that you wear a mask, face covering, and then they also have gloves and hand sanitizer available if you do want to go through loose prints. I think what we'll do is I'll ask artists to just give a brief introduction to themselves and talk a little bit about how they were introduced to printmaking. And I'm gonna start sharing my screen so that you can see their work as they are speaking. Nikki, could you turn on screen sharing for me, please? And a big thanks to everyone at Davidson for making this exhibition happen, and everyone for being here tonight, and Nikki on the back end with all of our technical Zoom management. So is there anyone that would like to start speaking?
Well, I guess I start with an A, so I should be the first one.
Wonderful. Thank you, Annegret.
My name is Annegret Reichmann, and as all the speakers before me, I would like to thank everybody, Claire, Nikki, the Davidson Gallery, and the wonderful Seattle Print Arts Association for this opportunity to show my work or to see everybody's work. How did I get to printmaking? I'm a trained painter and I just love the medium. But at some point, I moved from Portland, Oregon to Seattle and didn't have a studio. And what do you do if you don't have a studio, but you have the itching in your hand and you need to do something? And I couldn't paint at the kitchen table, and I'm not an impressionist and living in France, so I didn't paint in my bathroom. Um, so at some point, walking through the galleries, I read Pratt, Pratt, Pratt. So I showed up at the Pratt printmaking facility, and little did I know, I fell in love. I printed my heart out, and unfortunately, fortunately, I loved the community. I loved the medium. I loved the energy, but my body revolted. This was the environment, even as big as it was or is, was too toxic for me. But I made it. I'm still here, but I can't go there anymore. What do? I find a studio. So I found my home at Ballot Works, and a really nice artist community, and started to print with non-toxic materials. And now my ideas go in a German way, and I know not everybody speaks German, so I should stick with English. So what can I print? What are my interests? My interests are color, 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 color. And if you ask me what are my interests, may I say? Color. But everything starts with a seed. And looking back through the years since my first studies as an art student in Germany, the seed or the pods were always visible in my work, no matter how abstract the work is. And from the pod, from the seed, the nest, the place to be, the place you call home, the place where you raise a family, where you raise yourself, where you live. So the pod and the nest, and the seed and the nest, they're kind of similar to me, because for the plant, it's the seed. For us, it's the nest. So suddenly, I'm in the middle of printmaking. And here I stop, because I'm sure you have a few more questions, and Yerin and Elisa would like to say something too.
Thank you, Annegret. Yerin, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'd love to go next. Yes, hi, I'm Yerin, she, her pronouns. Yes, thank you again to Claire and Nikki for hosting this. This is a really exciting time for me. It's the work you see here, Justice for Comfort Women, is the first piece I've ever had in a gallery exhibition. I'm a relatively young artist. I'm 20. I'm currently, I recently got accepted into the University of Washington as a transfer student. So I'll be studying there for art. And yes, so I started printmaking actually probably in middle school in my very general studio arts class. We had one unit on block printing, and something about it drew my attention, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I didn't really have the resources at the time to look more into it. So I was just buy easy cut linoleum and use my little dinky speedball lino cutters, and just kind of did whatever. And it wasn't until I started taking classes at Bellevue College in 2019, and I saw a printmaking course, and I thought, you know what, why not? I had a fantastic professor who taught me many different. Oh, I see. Yes, Molly Vaughn, my wonderful, wonderful professor of printmaking at Bellevue College. Uh, I wouldn't say it was an easy class for certain, but it was very informative, very educational, well worth the effort I took, and that sort of really sparked my interest in printmaking. And I just kept coming back, and I thought, hey, I never realized that I could make more with printmaking. And I just kind of, the more I did it, the more I learned about it, the more I fell in love. Right now, my preferred medium is lino cut, mostly because it's the most accessible method for me, printing at home. But I'm trying to branch out to different techniques as well. I have a little home press, and I'm going to try kitchen lithography. Might be a bit of a mess, but it'll be a fun mess. My print specifically, Justice for Comfort Women, deals with the topic of comfort women. I just want to say a content warning. Comfort women involve stories of sexual assault, sexual abuse in the time of World War II. Predominantly Korean women were taken by Japanese soldiers in World War II to be used essentially as sexual slaves. And they were often under the guise of working to get a better job, or they were just taken without any word. And this was completely under the radar for a very long time until a couple decades ago when the issue was brought up in Korea and reparations were being sought out by Korean citizens from the Japanese government and the Korean government as they had worked together to keep it a little bit to keep it hidden because it's not a good look, right? So on my print, I have 3 languages: traditional Chinese, Filipino, and Korean. Korean on the right side, Chinese on the top, and Filipino underneath. And I have 3 flowers, on the girl's head here. The one on the right is Rose of Sharon, Korea's national flower. The one in the middle is Plum Blossom, Taiwan's national flower, as well as China. And the one on the very left is Jasmine, which is the Philippines' national flower. And the flower in the center, though I don't have color, it's yellow chrysanthemum, which symbolizes Japan's national flower in sort of a metaphor of silence. And the girl depicted here is sort of my representation of a very famous statue that's in a couple different locations of a girl dressed in a hanbok, traditional Korean dress, sitting. And so this, unfortunately, there are very few comfort women still alive to tell their stories. And I think it's awful that it's still an issue that this is not being discussed, as their stories are being lost with time. But a few Kickstarters have been made to create films, and of course there's many funds to support them. And so I hope my piece will bring awareness for that.
Great. Yep. Thank you so much, Yerin. Congratulations on your acceptance and to UW. And yeah, that's a really powerful piece and really important subject, and bringing it up, bringing past injustices to light and getting attention and reparations paid. Thank you.
Yeah. I do notice that Diane had asked questions. I'd love to answer them probably after Lisa introduces herself.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you. Elisa, would you like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about how you got into printmaking?
Yeah, my name's Elisa. I want to start off also and say thank you to everyone involved in organizing this show. And I'm just really glad to be a part of it and be among all of these amazing artists. Yeah, so I first came into printmaking in college. I minored in art and I had to pick a path within art, and I had never really tried printmaking. I'd kind of heard of it, but pretty much unsure of what it was. It just sounded really interesting. So I took a class. My first class was lithography, and just really threw me into that. But yeah, just was hooked from the first class, and now I primarily work in relief, lino cut, sometimes woodcut, and yeah, I have done some screen printing and intaglio, but that's kind of if I have it in courses. So mostly right now I print from my home and I handprint lino-cut woodcuts.
Great, thank you so much. I think for me, I would love to hear a little bit, if all of you are comfortable sharing a little bit just about your backgrounds, like personal backgrounds. If not, it's okay. I noticed everybody spoke a lot about printmaking, which is totally great, and we can stick to that. But if you wanted to share anything during the conversation, that would be, I think, wonderful. And I think Yerin started us off, well, both Annegret and Yerin both talked about their prints. Elisa, do you want to talk a little bit about your specific print in the show and kind of, yeah, maybe a little bit about your process and kind of what it's representing for you or what you were thinking about when you made it, if it was during COVID?
Yeah, definitely. This piece, I think I made it in March or April. Time flies and it's all blurred, but yeah, I did make it during COVID. I was just thinking like it would be really nice if we could, you know, go outside and even go somewhere else. I was thinking about traveling and from the perspective of being stuck inside and being inside my physical box, I guess. I moved to Seattle about a year and a half ago, and I was living in the Dominican Republic before I moved to Seattle. This is a little like snapshot of the street I lived on and where I spent most of my time, and it's kind of like recreated in how I remember it. But everything in it is from either a picture I took or just like people I would see on my street. And yeah, where I spent most of my time.
Great. Yeah, I definitely felt the, I think when we were thinking about different images to kind of represent the, the show initially, this one spoke to both Nikki and I because of the box and like feeling that closeness, physical closeness of being in our homes during COVID, especially in the beginning. And Kamala had a similar, or was asking why the box. So I think we, I think we hear it. So it's kind of like a snapshot in time, and then also that relationship to space during COVID. And
yeah, part of it is it's in a box because it's not the exact, you know, like accurate location of everything on the street. And then I started to think about the circumstances of which I was making it, and then yeah, one thing led to another. The box is definitely a COVID metaphor.
Nice. Diane says, I love the way this image feels like an encapsulated memory of place. I think the box makes the print speak in a way it would not have just as a scene. What inspired you to put the scene inside the box? That's that. And do you have any other boxes or places or memories in mind for future prints?
Yeah, a lot of my work revolves around memorializing a time and a place, and mostly as a way for myself to spend time in my memories of these places. I am working now on something I just started, and it's kind of related to the Dominican Republic, and it's like a balcony. It's those balconies that are really common in Latin America here too. They're like, they look like cages almost, where the bars go all the way up. And I was thinking about bird cages and these balcony cages, and it all came back to now COVID and the metaphor that can be drawn from that and our present day.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I'll be excited to see those. I was, when I initially saw your piece, I thought it was maybe a woodcut. So I felt like the lines felt more like a woodcut to me than a lino cut. I don't know. That was just an observation. But really beautiful. Thank you. Annegret, do you want to, you talked a little bit about your piece and the nests and the seeds. Do you want to talk about your process a little bit for it?
Well, I will start a little earlier.
Okay.
I grew up in Germany. I got trained in Germany, and I go back and forth because my family is still alive and they're living in Germany. So it makes total sense to deal with the seed. Where do I come from? Where do I go? With the nest. Where do I make my nest? When you put it in the social environment, everybody thinks about building a nest. Everybody who starts, who moves into their own room, make it acceptable for themselves, spruce it up and make it theirs, so they're nesting. And going to this piece, yes, how do we make a nest piece by piece? Which means for me, from the painterly side with a brush, but in this case, it's a palette knife. So as you see birds making their nest, I made my nest with the palette knife. Just not looking how big, how small, just staying in a certain diameter and dealing with this. And yes, it can't be woodcut, and it can't, for me, it can't be a woodcut or a lino cut. The lines would be too sharp, too rigid. It has to be more fluid.
Yes, thank you. Linda comments on that. There is such a sense of movement in the print. And you spoke a little bit about achieving it with the palette knife. Was this are these quick
Yes.
pieces? Yeah, okay, or are they more?
They're quick, they come out as they come out. And of course, there is a lot of, I still am a person who writes letters and postcards. So this is a great way to use the paper again, writing notes and sending them off with all the pieces that would not work on by themselves.
Mm.
So I sent them into the world, and people don't mind getting them. It's nothing to be framed, but it's just, oh, at that moment when she did that, she thought about me, and here it goes, and it connects me to my surrounding.
Mm-hmm. That's really lovely. And then to the next person that receives the
An email can't do that. There is no way technology can do that. If you open a letter and there's something personal in it, or even a smudge or something like this on the letter, on the envelope, off you go. You feel a different personal connection.
Mm-hmm.
But I might be old school, and I don't mind.
I agree, as someone that also loves writing and receiving letters and cards, that, yeah, and there's that recognition of that mark that people are making.
So at the same time, I also cook from scratch. I love to cook. And what do I cook? I cook with color. My dishes are colorful. When you look at the nesting, how do I put them together? Piece by piece, not 1 cup, 1 ounce at a time. It all flows in together. Does it make sense? And if it doesn't, that's how it is.
I mean, I guess for me, thinking about it piece by piece and then also the flowing, can you maybe, is it more like the parts of the sum, or parts are, the sum of the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts? Is that the saying?
Yes.
What's the saying?
From those, I started to do collages because with all the prints I made and they didn't work out their way, but they also have points which I like to keep using and not only as writing material because there is more than I know people. So there are, we are back to cooking, ingredients. The ingredients for new artwork are pieces for a collage because it needs to be used. And I don't think Yerin or Elisa, you tear your pieces apart. I think you do something with them. Or do you just leave them as they are?
When they're done, or when they're the final print, do I leave them?
Yeah, you have the final print and you have 10 of them. And yes, you need 10, but you might only need 5. What do you do with the other 5?
Right, that's a good question, and that's something to think about as someone who, I don't need all of my prints, and I try to find the line between what's too few, what's too many, what's, you know, enough for me and then enough for me to give to other people. Yeah.
But the people only can have so much.
I know.
It's like, okay, I'm happy I got another one of those. Thank you. Yes,
I know my mom would be glad to just say stop.
Yeah, I definitely have like a pile of prints, like sort of like quote unquote waste prints that I don't really know what to do with because I feel like I don't feel like I want to part with them because I put time and energy and I'm like, how can I find a way to reuse them?
And then they start talking to me, and as soon as was the same with painting, I would start a painting and I got stuck, and after some time this piece started to talk. It got more attention, and with printmaking it's the same. Yes. If they talk, they get attention.
Well, I think that certainly, you know, as time goes on, yes, you do start accumulating more and more prints. You have to make that decision of what to do with them. But I think you have what I think many artists would say is a good, like, to hold on to them until you're ready to part with them. Because yeah, as Annegret says, like, you never know when they'll start speaking to you again.
Exactly.
And want you to do
not throw anything away. No, not.
I don't know, Annegret. I think sometimes it's a good thing, at least for me.
One way to do this is to move. Just move. And suddenly, every time I move, I throw 3/4 of everything away.
Yes, there you go. You have to do that. Thank you. So Yerin, do you want to go back? Let's go back to Diane's question.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to answer those. So Diane had asked, has your work always been political, or has the current political climate in the U.S. sent you in that direction? Am I making other work? I think it was sort of a combination of, like, I had carved this a little while ago and then only like recently reprinted it, or sorry, reprinted it. And so part of it was sort of like thinking about like our changing political climate and sort of the attention that issues have been attention that certain issues have gotten, such as the Black Lives Matter movement. And sort of I thought to myself, what are things that have impacted me that I never really got to learn back in school. One moment, my laptop is running out of battery, so I just need to plug it in real quick.
Yeah, wonderful.
Second.
Okay,
there we are. And I remember sort of thinking how I never really got to learn about, like, I'm a Korean American woman. My parents, I guess I'm a first generation immigrant. My parents moved here and I was born in America. And growing in America, I learned like American history, and in high school, I learned more about world history, and I always noticed that places where I'm from, places where a lot of my friends are from, uh, we never really get to hear about it, even in our world history lessons. We never really got to touch upon sort of the effect the U.S. had on Korean democracy, Korean economics, the Korean War, even a lot of really vital parts of Korean history that I would have learned if I had grown up in Korea. Things that the United States has done to both North and South Korea that is never even mentioned. Things I had to learn by myself, sort of researching, and still things I'm learning every day. And I just thought I want to make a piece that I know that, of course, it hasn't seen a lot of attention, but deserves it. It's a little bit of my history that I can help other people like me learn. And sort of, I've been wanting to make more political work. My professor, Molly Vaughn, has been sort of like in our classes always pushing sort of like, your piece says this message, but how can you sort of like extend it more? And I am, the whole COVID stuff has been sort of like, I feel like I haven't been able to make a lot more creative work, but I am looking to make more work. Maybe not related to this issue, at least for my next work, but I definitely want to make more about comfort women.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Yeah. I had only learned about comfort women through a documentary maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea before that. Really amazing that that the women that were still with us were able to tell their story.
The resilience is incredible. The way they keep pushing. Sadly, very important comfort women died a few years ago, but a lot of stuff is still being done in her name, thankfully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to touch upon something. Elisa, I was looking at your print, and I thought it was really interesting, those two people on the motorcycle. I like the way the wheel sort of leaves that little box. Did you have any sort of like specific thinking towards that?
Yeah, I wanted to have it as a box to, as I talked about before, kind of like encapsulate this memory. But I know with boxes comes the some of the associations of being closed in or being stuck or withheld. So I wanted to keep it, I guess, to break through the lines that restrict it. And I also did that with the chair in the bottom right, and to kind of speak to the fact that it's a memory and it's not confined to this specific box. There's parts that move in and out of it, and yeah, thank you for asking that.
Yeah, of course.
Great question.
Actually,
And,
also for
sorry. I was gonna circle back to what you were talking about, Yerin, about being of another culture that's not the dominant one we're all raised in. And to that point, I am Puerto Rican, and what you were saying about having to go back and learn your own history that wasn't taught to you, that really resonated with me. This piece is not specifically about Puerto Rico, but the themes of Puerto Ricanness and Puerto Rican identity are common in my work, and a lot of that is what I had to go back and find out for myself and do research and learn about how America had such, or still has such a large role in the only colony that still exists in the American Empire today. And you kind of are brought up in America as this is the greatest country and don't even think about questioning it, and then you learn from another standpoint of other countries and how the US has impacted them, and it makes you question, like, what you were brought up in.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's very, I mean, I feel like we're all being gaslit all the time.
Yeah, it feels that way sometimes.
Yeah. I'm gonna turn off the screen sharing if that's all right with everyone.
Sure.
Here we go. So I think, I mean, I love the conversation that is happening, and I'd love to hear a little bit, Elisa, how your experience, let's see, you graduated in 2018, is that right?
Yes.
From university, and how your experience in the Dominican Republic came about, and then like how you decided to move to Seattle after.
Yeah, I graduated university in 2018. I was in University of Tennessee. I pretty much took this job in the Dominican Republic as an English teacher that I had found out about through my my advisor at school. I didn't really have like much of a plan after college, and I wanted to live in Latin America and yeah, just be in the culture. And I found out I didn't love teaching, but I had a great time outside of the job. Yeah, I ended up moving back home and have just followed where the winds have taken me, so to speak. And here I am in Seattle. But I have been thinking so much, especially now being restricted on places we can go, thinking about the last places I've been and the last times I was able to go experience a new place.
Mm-hmm. How has Annegret and Yerin, how has kind of that the effects of COVID and, you know, staying in one place, how has that changed your work or changed how you're thinking about everything, school, working in the studio?
Well, it changed a lot. The underlying energy, the underlying vibration, by thinking about my elderly parents where I can't get to. There's no way I can get there.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way out. That really puts the whole situations once more in perspective. But there will be a way for me to deal with it. And I'm so happy that I have my sanctuary. I really see it as my sanctuary, my nest, my pod, my seat, where I can go, open the door, open the window, and escape into the world that I'm supposed to be in. Nobody tells me that I have to be an artist, except myself. And I even don't have to tell me that I have to be an artist. It comes natural. I have a lot of hair. Yeah. I have toenails that are not painted. Yeah, but I'm an artist. I can do a lot of other things, and I've done a lot of other things in my life. No, I'm an artist. I love to cook, but I love to create. And if it's not the creating through my hands, there's also the creating through my brain. Thinking, writing, what comes, finding new ways to write. Not everybody needs to be read by my surrounding. Of course not. Not everything has to be seen by my surroundings. It's difficult. It's different. It's difficult to find people to talk to, because where are you going to go? Where do you find the people? Because you just can't call somebody else and say, you know, I have heard about you. Can we meet? And I'm not of this cyber age that I don't mind not meeting people. I really like to the eye contact. I really like to see them across from me. It's different than seeing somebody on a video. The same if you have the artwork in your hand. That's so powerful. You see it on the screen and you think, oh, I like it. But if you have it in your hand, that does something else to you and especially to your soul. And the account of our soul needs to be filled. And I think that's the hardest time for us at the moment, to fill our soul.
Thank you. Yeah, I hear you, and I feel like I have bought a lot of art this COVID period because it is that really wonderful way to connect in a physical way with something outside of yourself that someone's made by hand. How about you, Yerin? How has COVID been affecting
yeah. Annegret, what you said, that was very beautiful and poetic. I feel like I also work in sort of like digital artwork, sort of on the side, just to. I feel like the digital toolbox is so expansive. I can do so much, but at the same time, it feels very like flat because I can't. While I can do amazing things with editing, it's not like I'm physically interacting with the piece. When I'm printing, when I'm painting or drawing, I am a little bit more limited. Of like, I can't make this sparkle effect instantly with my like I can with my digital pieces. But there's something about like being able to like draw my design, carve it away, ink it up, print it, and I have it in my hands as a physical object. It feels like there's more, like I can really put my soul into it. I feel like I was taking a summer class that's this past summer, and so a lot of my attention has been focused on that and sort of preparing for preparing myself to go to a new college, and I feel like a lot of my creative energy is a little bit drained, and I feel like I can't find ways. Like I have so much inspiration around me. At the same time, I feel like I can't make anything, but sort of waking up and like, okay, I can do this. I know what I want to make, and I'm going to at least take some steps to do something. There was a print exchange called the Tiny Bunny Print Exchange, and basically you make very small, you're limited in like a small sheet of paper, and you just do something related to rabbits. And I thought, okay, I want to figure something out, and kind of like, in a way I am forcing myself to create, but I want to create something that I will enjoy. And sort of, I'm someone who needs a little bit of a push, whether it comes from like, oh, I gotta do it, or like somebody else pushes me. But and I feel like in COVID, I haven't really gotten that push, so I have to find it in other sources.
Yeah, well, the Tiny Bunny Print Exchange is a great one to do.
I'm very excited to get my prints.
Totally. Fun. What did you do a lino cut for that, or did you do?
I did do a lino cut, yes.
Fun.
Very exciting. And I've sort of like I recently bought a book that my professor recommended, Printmaking: A Complete Guide to Materials and Processes, by Bill Flick and Beth Grabowski. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. And I thought, I might not be taking printmaking right now, but there's always more to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And kitchen table litho, right?
Yes, I'm still nervous about doing it. I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos. I got my materials. I just have to make sure I have a space that I won't mess up too badly.
And I think that maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is the kitchen table litho a little bit maybe tying in with Annegret's more non-toxic studio practice? Like, or is it?
Yes. Kitchen litho, it's definitely a lot more non-toxic because you essentially you take aluminum foil, make sure it's nice and smooth. You take a grease pencil or anything else that's like grease-like. Make your standard, like how you would do a lithography. And there's two methods that I've seen to etch the surface of the foil with Coca-Cola and white vinegar. I'm preferring to use the white vinegar because I can just reuse it instead of Coca-Cola, which will go flat and be used soda.
So it's the is it partly the carbonation?
The carbonation, yeah, the acidity of the carbonation is what like etches away the surface to make your litho. And then instead of a press, I think you can use a press, but from all the tutorials I've seen, you can hand print it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, totally. Annegret, do you want to talk a little bit about your non-toxic processes and kind of how that, I mean, you talked a little bit about it being at Pratt and then, you know, needing to move away, but I know you're using soy inks now, but do you have any tips or things that you'd love to share with anyone who is interested in more non-toxic processes?
I think there aren't people on this planet who can really deal with toxicity. They just don't know it yet, and they may not ever know it. Unfortunately, my body says we stop here. And so I try, of course, the monoprints. I also do lino cuts. I also do wood cuts. They're different. And yes, they are totally different from Yerin's and Elisa's work. They are more free. The form follows, the form doesn't follow the function. And I stay away from real objects, from realistic things, because other people do it and it's not my thing. It's totally not my thing. It was difficult to realize for me that printmaking is possible in a non-toxic way, but as soon as I grasp it, it's totally different. And all the YouTubes you can find, I haven't found one that really gives me all the ideas. So what is this called? Experiment. Off we go.
Totally.
And yes, and my studio is my oyster. And believe me, it is my studio. The door outside looks wonderful and it's clean. And inside, it's called temperament. Yes, it's there. And I do not mind. I don't need, well, I can't have people over, otherwise I would all invite you. And I would clean up so you would have some space to sit and to stand. But off I go. And I haven't experimented like that in a long, long time. And I know as a student, a few years ago, well, come on, I had a different hair color. Yes, it kind of looked the same. So the studio, yes, it's fine. Dealing with non-toxic material, just go for it and your body will thank you. It will just thank you. And if you deal with the oils and whatever there is, try it too, because it's a medium, it's available. And if you don't try it today, when will you do it?
Yeah. Thank you, Annegret.
The other thing, there's nothing you can do wrong. If you're by yourself at your kitchen table in the bathroom, oh, nobody's in the bathroom, right? In the studio, nobody. Who will say whatever you do is wrong?
Exactly.
And who is there who said, I don't like it? So? It's you. You are the creator. And if all the artists would always have listened to their surroundings about what they thought, they would not have come to the heights they went to. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great time to experiment. Thank you, Annegret. Do we have if anyone has any questions, I think now would be a great time to put them in the chat if we haven't addressed some of the things that you want to hear about. We got a late start, so we will extend just a little bit more. It's 7:38. I think, I don't know about you, Yerin and Elisa, but certainly, Annegret, what you said about, allowing yourself to experiment and like releasing that judgment of those experiments, I think is really powerful, especially right now, because who else is there but yourself to, please and learn and try new things and new techniques. So I'm excited to see the kitchen litho techniques here.
No matter what it was. And we are very happy about it. And our soul says, yes, we did it. It doesn't matter what the surrounding says. We're just there. We have it. We own it. Good.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate your perspective, Annegret, because sometimes I become my own critic and I forget to think about all the time and effort and passion I put into making the piece. And I just really like the way you put it.
You are the creator. You are the goddess.
Totally.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like often that phrase, "You're your own worst critic."
Yes, but you're also the goddess.
It's true. Sometimes I'll like think I'll put so much time and effort into a print. It doesn't come out exactly the way I want it. I'm like, oh dang, I wish I could have started over. But I mean, ultimately, the main.
Then write me a letter of your artwork.
Here's the print I didn't like so much, but I hope you like it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I want to do that with all my prints. I'm like, I'm a combination of all of my works, all of my failures and all of my successes. And ultimately, everybody is flawed and we're going to make flawed work. And I think it's like what Annegret said, experimenting is like so important. I feel like I'm still learning so many different ways of printmaking, and I feel like I have to follow certain ways to like certain techniques in order to make prints. And I look up to so many artists and I think, okay, if I have to follow this process and I can be like this person, and ultimately I have to be like me.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
when you learned to tie your shoes or when you learned to brush your teeth, you did it a certain way. And today you don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm. And I hope I can reach that. I hope I can reach that part of sort of like I'm making my work and I don't even think of like, oh, what are people going to say or what are people going to think? I think I see my piece and I like it how it is. And if people don't like it, what can you do?
Yeah.
And there's always all of the learning that comes along the way, because all of those things that are mistakes or not as good, are going to be important to you later on. There are a couple things in the chat.
I'm seeing a couple things as well.
Rebecca says, as an older artist, I want to say to hold on to your old prints for a bit because it may grow on you. 40 years later, there are prints I miss that I made and threw out.
Oh, no.
And then Suki asked, what could help make print arts more accessible to each of you, especially in a pandemic, but also just generally?
Gosh, to make it more accessible, I feel like, honestly, I just need more space and more access to equipment. I'm currently living with my parents very graciously, and I've taken over the garage. But there are some times of like, I wish I was in sort of like a more I have to think about like climate control. Like I can't leave my prints out too long in the garage because it's a little bit humid. Or I have to like think about ants. I do worry about ants a lot coming to get my prints. And also I sort of have a bit of insectophobia. So it's like sometimes it's a little hard to work. But I think just sort of like the biggest thing I miss about printing is other people.
Mm-hmm.
Of like I'll be in the studio and I'll be working and I'll have someone to chat with, and we're working on maybe different projects and sort of being able to talk back and forth. But I think like in general of like terms of like physical accessibilities and supplies, I think just more space.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Annegret and Elisa?
I miss the community. I always thought other people are just great. But if the materials they use kill me, I can't be there. I have to be my own advocate. And so I rather be by myself. Thank you, pandemic. And just go. What else can you do?
Yeah, I second that. I mostly miss having other people to give feedback, give progress critiques, and just kind of say what they're thinking and guide you along the way as you create. And now I live alone and I work or I make prints at home, and I love having the space to use how exactly I want it, but I wish I did have the community and the other people around me who know the processes and know the end goal and have the same mindset about printmaking and about art and are able to guide you along the way.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe Seattle Print Arts can build something online where it's more of a shared, print time, or maybe showing some techniques. I know there's a lot of really great classes right now, but yes, I hear you. Like definitely the community aspect and space is good. And Annegret, totally, absolutely, prioritizing your health is so important.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So
that's right, totally. Important that you are. So thank you so much, all three of you, for joining us, and everyone else who's been on this conversation. Please stop by Davidson through the end of this month to see the prints in person. It's really great. Sam and everyone at Davidson did a really great job of hanging the show. It's really interesting to see all the relationships and differences, and then how our juror, Bea, put the show together. So thank you very much. And we're gonna stop recording, and you can hang around if you like and chat. But thank you again for joining us, Annegret, Yerin, and Elisa. Good night.